Launching in a new market is like launching a new company.
What is your approach to resolving challenges with a co-founder?
I feel like ego is one of the things that kills a lot of startups.
You look at it as a metric. You don't focus on it as this is our core priority and then I'm gonna kill anyone that stands in the way.
Building a startup is like jumping from the skyscraper and
building
a plane while falling.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh well, I'm just gonna stop here because it didn't fly, it didn't work.
By the way, super focus on these two things for 3 months gives great results.
We see glamorous entrepreneurs out there who are amazing and successful, and we think, well, I can never be that.
Felt like there's so many smart people, successful, everybody's doing the right thing, and we're the only idiots in the room. We were dead a couple of times before we got to YC.
Welcome to Soulful Entrepreneur podcast. I'm Lucy Stepanyan, your host. Today's guest is Tat Ajamyan. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Wakie and SleepDoctor. He's a serial entrepreneur and a super person. Welcome, Tat.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Lucy.
I want to start with talking about Wakie. I know that this was the first startup that actually went through YC. Mm-hmm. And can you talk about the process of building the MVP and then applying to the Y Combinator, and how did you get to that stage?
Oh, that's first of all, you say it's the first startup, I guess, among Armenian
startup. Sorry. Startup, yeah, exactly. Not generally.
It was in 2016. Yeah, I think we had quite a complicated and non-linear way up until the moment we got to YC, lots of complications and story and years of work. So I think by the time when we got into YC, everybody else but my team, my co-founder, I and our team, everybody else thought we're dead. Mm. I'm just saying, we were dead a couple of times before we got to YC. So it's just part of the startup life. It's hard, but yeah. So it was not very linear path. Like we started an MVP, we got great traction, and we got to YC. If you want a little bit more of details, if I try to maybe put it in several phases of development, we didn't know the word MVP by then when we started, but we were so scarce of resources that we had to start something very, very small, simple, and very uncomfortable to launch.
Yeah.
That was just because we didn't have resources. But in reality, that's the right way of building things. And today we know that, and you first put it on the market and then build stuff. But back then it was kind of because of the resources, we had to do it very fast. So we launched the first MVP. I think it took us about 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it used to be a crowdsourced wake-up call. Yeah. So you set up a wake-up call, and in the morning someone randomly calls and wakes you up. Calls you on your mobile. No mobile application by then.
Yeah.
And it started taking off like crazy. Started doubling every day. And then it wasn't working in one city. Then we expanded, it started doubling every 4 hours. So we had this hockey stick crazy chart. Yeah. And great traction. I think in first few days, every 3 or 4 days, we were rewriting the backend because we were thinking, okay, let's scale backend to 10,000 times bigger to be able to take 10,000 times more users. And then in 4 days, you reach that, and you have to rewrite it again. So we had this crazy traction. At the same time, we had lots of challenges. Yeah. We raised quite quickly in the beginning, and then we didn't find our business model. We didn't find user retention, mm-hmm. And that's key to having a successful social app. So then we had all of our ups and downs, including like several times when we had to bridge round, but we couldn't bridge it, and so on. So my brother
By that
and
you
I
mean like raising funds, right?
raising funds, yes, because we were not making any money back
Yeah.
then. And at some point we realized, we started the first product in Moscow, Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, and the market was Moscow, Russia. And then in a few months, early in the morning, we get a call from one of our investors who's saying, "Guys, we've been cloned," because
Oh, shit.
it happens rarely, but we had a unique product.
Yeah.
No, I don't think because we were so genius, but because nobody else was stupid enough to build a wake-up call, crowdsourced wake-up call. So we've been the first to really build that.
Yeah.
And because we had traction, we started getting lots of clones. And this Russian guy cloned us, but launched it
Asshole.
in the US.
Oh, wow.
Officially asshole, yes.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the official title.
Definition, yeah.
Definition. And then we had tens of them, by the way. So we were super scared, and we went ahead and built translated and built a better version of our product, much better version than what we had initially.
Yeah.
And went to the US, to Silicon Valley, and launched it. And you know what happened? Nothing happened.
Okay.
Like the product we launched in Moscow was flying like crazy, taking off and doubling every day, and then every 4 hours.
Interesting.
In the US, it just nothing happened. And for the first few months, nothing was working.
Is it because of the culture or?
Many things, and some of the things are not, you can try to rationalize, but it's not clear enough.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things that I'm trying to communicate to fellow entrepreneurs, that launching in a new market is like launching a new company.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experience. The market will drive your product in this or that direction. The product will change, the team will change, go-to-market strategy everything will change, really.
Yeah.
So, and by that time, maybe I'm giving you a bit long answer to the first question, but we had ups and downs.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So you started out, you built a shitty MVP, you launched it in Moscow, it took off, and you got cloned, and
Yes.
then you rebuilt the product, and then you applied at some point to YC.
Yeah, and lots of
This was after
other things
you got
between them.
This was after you kind of failed when you launched in the US.
Yes.
After that, you started applying
Yes.
to. Okay, interesting.
Yes. For example, when we launched our first mobile application, we got rejected by App Store. And I don't remember the reason, but one of the rules was, pornography and stuff like that.
What?
While
It's a
we had no
wake-up call.
pictures, that's it. That's just voice. Because it reminded them of chat roulette.
Okay.
You know, the video app where you have all the exhibitionists. So this thing was maybe a year ago. Before
Right.
us, it was quite popular, and then it became all this porn. And I think because of that, they had this rule, and because we had the random connections between people,
Yeah.
they kind of put us in that category. And I think for 9 months we couldn't find any ways to talk to Apple and to convince them that it's impossible to have pornography. Moreover, in App Store, we had the Russian version of the product that was highly popular, number one in the App Store in Russia, and was not getting rejected,
Yeah.
just under another name, and it was completely fine for Apple. But the structure is so close, this ecosystem is so close, we couldn't find a person to talk to. You have this appeal system, you appeal, and then you get rejection. That's it. There's no discussion.
Yeah.
And I think it took us 9 months, and it was an episode when my co-founder and brother Herachik, he went to Silicon Valley, and out of the desperation, he went to the parking of Apple's offices.
Oh my gosh.
The old one, not the new one in Cupertino. And and he was just hanging out at the parking and talking to anybody that was parking there to try to get access to the app review team, to try to convince them. And it took us 9 months.
That's determination, I'm gonna
That's
tell
it.
you. That's
That's it.
amazing.
Yeah.
I want to know about your, like, initially your value proposition was a wake up call, right? You just get
Yes.
a call from a stranger and you immediately wake up because the stranger is calling you, right? So
Yeah.
it's a wake up call. But that has changed throughout time.
Right.
And this value proposition has also been different for different markets. Is that correct or am I wrong?
No, not different for different markets, but it changed a lot, especially at YC and during YC. We before YC we started realizing that wake up call thing can't retain and can't work, and we need to pivot. And we had millions of ideas. I think it's one of our strengths that my co-founder is just a crazy fountain of ideas, and we always had ideas, but we didn't know what to choose. And at YC, the first advice you get is talk. During YC, the 100 days of YC, the only two things: talking to users and building a product. Yeah,
Amazing.
and you don't do anything else. You don't talk to investors. You don't hire, fire, anything. You just do these two things. And by the way, super focus on these two things for 3 months gives great results. Really hard to do. Really
Yeah,
hard to do
that's a
anytime when you're out of the YC period. But this 100 days of focus is giving crazy results. So we thought, okay, this talking to customers is about all other YC startups because they had from 0 to 50 clients. Okay, we had 100,000 by the time we got there. You cannot talk to 100,000 people. So we thought, okay, that's not about us. We do some surveys and so on. Building a product is about us. So we will just focus on that. We will just be building and iterating and so on. And in about a few weeks they really, Michael Seibel, who used to be our partner, really got time. I remember we took a long walk around the building, like for 30 minutes, and he really took time to convince us that we need to talk to customers and we need to keep one application, the application we have, the users we have, and just talk to them and change that application instead of launching a new one.
Yeah.
I think it was a great advice. And so we started talking to customers. And I think next 1 month, Hrachik and I, we spent full time only talking to users. We spoke to 5,000 people out of 100,000. And we understood they're using it for completely different reasons. It was, it was very different from what we were imagining, very different from the initial pitch, and different from what we were thinking about.
Exactly.
And it seemed that they were, this was a safe environment where they could express themselves and find good new friends, which from our perspective seemed impossible and unreal. This is just voice conversation. You don't see the person. And, especially in our culture, we have so many friends and we are, surrounded by people all the time. But and we have this family ties and so on, like Armenian culture. And for us, it was a bit hard to imagine that people are struggling so much with having these true connections to other people who they don't know really in a pseudonymous environment like community.
Yeah.
But it worked like that. So we understood a lot of things. We got some insights, and we started building in that direction.
That's amazing. And I want to ask you, before you actually, the first time when you built the product, the prototype, did you talk to users before building it? Or was this just a crazy experiment idea that you had an idea?
No.
And then, what was it?
No, never spoke to users before launching it. We launched it in a few weeks without, just building.
Just flat out building
night and day out. Yeah. We spoke when we launched. We started speaking to the smartest people we know, about what's next because something was working, but and I think everybody was skeptical. Like it's crazy, stupid thing. It cannot work. I think the only guy who was excited was David Young of Abby. David?
Oh my God, I need to get him on the podcast. He's
Yes,
here,
please.
I think.
Oh yeah,
And I've gotten in touch with
the
him.
greatest guy.
Yeah.
Good friend, and super nice guy, visionary, and so on. And we spoke to him, and he said, "Wow, he had an experience of building this Tamagotchi thing."
Yeah.
to communicate with other people.
Yeah.
So he has been reflecting on this idea of random people kind of connecting to each other, and it really excited him at that point.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I know that you have a background in finance, trust
I do.
fund, 6 foot. No, just kidding. But you have background in finance.
Right.
So, how did you build the product? You must have had. I mean, Ratik probably has a technical background, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
you also have been building. It's not like you just were not building. You were coding, and you are still coding now.
No,
You
I'm
are
not. No. And Heracik also. I mean, like my coding skills are super basic. His are more advanced, but very quickly we hit our limits in terms of coding. So
Okay.
we had a team. In reality, we started our first company, which was a web development agency, very early. When I was 19, Heracik was 16.
Oh my God, you guys are amazing.
Yes, he was at school and I was at university, and we started this web development agency at the time when companies didn't have websites. Okay, and I was running around some expos and trying to convince like
Here?
a furniture in Moscow,
In Moscow. Okay.
like a furniture expo, and I would run to all of the companies and try to convince them to have a website. And they were saying like, "Hey, we have the business cards.
Oh my God.
Why do we need a website?" Like, And it like I was selling, and then accidentally I would sell something, and then I would say, "Oh, we can build anything. I have a great team," and so on.
Nice.
And then we would have to figure out what we do, and Haraj would have to figure out how to build it. So
But you didn't have a team at that time. You were
I
just
had him.
You had him.
I
Oh
had
my
him.
God.
Yeah, I had him. He was this kind of a tech savvy guy, and so he would build everything himself.
Amazing.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, when thinking about entrepreneurs generally, I know I've been discouraged a lot. I'm not a tech. I don't have a technical background myself, but I've been starting like working on companies on startup ideas, and a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you definitely need technical skills, like or someone who has technical skills as a co-founder. Otherwise, it's going to be super hard for you to launch something and build that fast and scale and whatnot." Do you agree with that, or do you think that it really doesn't matter?
I agree with the part that it's going to be super hard, but I don't think it's not super hard for tech people. I think the biggest challenges in, not I think, but the research shows that companies fail not because they couldn't build a technology or product, but because they couldn't hit the product market fit. That's the hardest part, really.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. And engineers are really good at figuring that out because they have a different type of mindset and so on. They are really good. At the same time, engineers hate doing that. So many of the engineers and tend to do what they love, just building, coding, and so on.
Yeah.
And that's not a recipe for product market fit. Recipe for product market fit is what YC is saying: talking to customers and building the product. And customers should be in the loop. If customers are not in the loop, which is in the majority of cases, you're just building something and they never use it and they never buy it. And I think for that reason, if the most companies fail not because of engineering, that means engineering is not key to having a successful company.
True. Yeah.
So I think that I would not be discouraged by not having technical background. I would focus on getting insights from the market, from your customers that no one else has. And this is one, there's one advantage that a startup has compared to Google's and Apple's of the world. Okay, Google's and Apple's of the world have more money, obviously, more technology, more brains, people, PhDs and stuff. Yeah. Only thing that we have that they don't have is speed. And speed, I mean, how quickly you can iterate. So you go to customer, show them the product, you get feedback, go back, iterate overnight or in 1 hour, 1 week. The faster, the better. You go back to the customer and try to see how this version performs. And these iterations can be so quick that Google cannot do that.
Yeah.
Google's iterations are long
Yeah.
and strategic and so on. So our advantage is that we are super flexible and quick,
Mhm.
and I think for that reason we can compete with large corporations like that.
Yeah. So you are of the idea then lean startup methodology works well.
Absolutely,
Yeah, iterating fast and building fast.
absolutely.
What has YC given you?
Uh, well, I would say first and foremost is this conviction to focus on talking to people and iterating quickly,
Mm-hmm.
which is very easy to say, very easy to understand, but
Yeah.
hard to execute.
Super hard.
Yeah, and the first few weeks we were not convinced, and we thought we know better, and that we will,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
like,
we will
just
cherry
gonna
pick.
build.
Yeah, we will cherry pick your advice, and we will do
Yeah.
this, but not do this. But in reality, when we started speaking to customers, it changed a lot in how we think and what we build and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's number one thing, because you're seeing so many uh, successful, crazy, talented, smart people telling you same stuff in different wording,
That's true.
and you at some point we got convinced that okay, we will try it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the first thing, this focus. And the second thing is, of course, access to best investors in the world, like
Yeah.
in one room at demo day,
Yeah.
where you can fail, but you can also succeed.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to really, get good attention
You
from.
raised money
Yes,
during
yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
we got raised very quickly, like in
Mm-hmm.
5-6 days,
Mm-hmm.
and then raised another. We were raising 1 million. We raised that in 5 or 6 days, and then
Mm-hmm.
opened 1 more million, raised that, and then stopped and focused on business. Quickest round in our life,
Nice.
and you can just do that quickly and get back to building stuff, which
Mm-hmm.
is just amazing.
Which markets is Wakie now at? It's in Russia. I know that's for sure.
No, we almost don't have any. Not almost. We don't have any users in Russia.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it died down, kind
Yes.
of.
Yes.
And now which markets does
Well,
it?
Wiki is language based, so by languages, the biggest languages are English and Arabic.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because Arabic, we don't have Arabic speakers. We didn't have any Arabic speakers at the team up until maybe last year.
Yeah.
And really, they are using it differently. In English, there is more texting,
Mm-hmm.
more text-based communication.
Mm-hmm.
In Arabic, there is more voice-based communication. It's quite interesting that it took off in Gulf countries specifically, and yeah.
Interesting.
But we also have big communities in Thai language, in Hindi, in I don't know, tens of other languages.
That's awesome. What is Wakie's value proposition right now?
Well, it's a place where you can come set any topic
Mm-hmm.
and start discussing that in text, in groups, in
Mm-hmm.
private or voice.
Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, we've built a group voice communication that we call clubs. I think a couple of years before Clubhouse, and then we saw
Oh,
Clubhouse, like everybody was excited about Clubhouse.
yeah.
So we tried out different kind of communication. So today it's a place, it's a community, pseudonymous community, where you can come and express your true ideas, feelings, and so on, and discuss them with other people. And because this is a safe and pseudonymous environment, people tend to find like-minded people
Yeah.
and become friends, really, which was hard to imagine from our initial pitch that we had in the beginning. And yeah, that's the main.
Amazing.
Yeah.
At what point did you decide that you will start a second startup? Because you started SleepDoctor about what,
Right.
2 years, 3 years back?
Yes. Yes. A couple of years ago. At what point? Wakey has a very good team, and it's going sustainably growing in its own area. So I didn't have to spend a lot of time there. So over course of maybe 1.5 years, I was reducing my role there. And at some point, I figured out I have now time to think about something else. And slowly we started thinking about it with one of my great friends. And at some point, we decided that we can go. And so we started SleepDoctor.
Yeah, that's Armen Vertian,
Armen,
right?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
super cool guy too.
Yes.
Also trying to get him on the podcast too.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
He's one of the, I think in the community, in Armenian community here, we don't have many biotech founders.
Yep.
And Armen has co-founded a biotech company, amazing, Cellprotera, that is repairing heart after infarct with your own stem cells.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
Crazy technology.
Yeah, definitely getting him on the podcast. I want to know, you have two companies now. You're co-CEO and co-founder of two companies.
Right.
That must be super stressful, A. B, a lot of time. So a lot of time and resources are consumed in both of the startups. Was there any point in time when you realized that, well, I am at a breaking point, like this hustle, toxic hustle culture is getting to me? And how did you manage to change that, if you did?
Yeah, many times actually, many times. I think, first of all, when I was younger, I think I took everything too seriously.
Okay.
All right, and you know, I remember specifically the point of when I was at the lowest, when I so we had Wakie, and I got married and I got a child. And at some point I realized her 1 year anniversary passed. I was there physically, but I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
So at some point, a few weeks after her birthday, I couldn't remember, was I at her birthday or no?
Oh,
You know,
God.
I was so focused and stressed with Wakie. And for me, family matters. And family is one of the core values, one of the things that today holds me at balance and in a
Grounded.
grounded and normal mental state.
Yeah.
But at that point, I realized, something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something was completely not, out of my priorities, basically. So I started kind of rebalancing and trying to understand why does that happen and so on. So it's really hard to manage this kind of things. But in reality, I think there are a few things. I mean, it's quite individual. Everybody is building this their mental health in their own ways. For me, it's first quite critical to have a co-founder that you completely trust and you can go with. Both of the companies, I would stop if I didn't have the co-founders I have in both. One is my brother, the other one is my also brother, a great friend who we've been best friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And for me, money is not a motivator. I mean, you have to have some good amount of money,
Obviously.
but and of course we want to make shit ton of money with both startups, but it's never enough as a motivator, okay?
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest motivator I figured out was the guys I'm working with, the team and the co-founders I'm working with. For them, I'm ready to do crazy things, And if I didn't have them, I would definitely stop. I would go work for a corporation, make a lot of money, and just relax and just take off at 6 p.m. and be happy. But with startup building, you cannot do that. You're
Yeah.
working all the time. Your brain just never stops. I I had never I didn't have any vacations without laptop. Any. I didn't have any vacations that are longer than, I don't know, 10 days, for example, because you just you
Yeah.
have to be there. You have to be working because it's a young company and everything is changing and moving, shaky. So
Yeah.
you have to be there all the time.
It's like you're on 24/7. Your brain doesn't stop.
Totally.
But I mean, some people, I don't know if I've told this before, but some people do like a 4 a.m. plunges and you know, they have very specific rituals that you do, that they do. They meditate, they um, do retreats. Is there anything that you do, like a ritual type of thing for yourself where you can ground yourself?
Yeah, I figured out that for me, what works is the daily and weekly rituals. Not, I don't do retreats or longer term vacations and stuff like
You
that.
don't go to ashram and meditate
No,
for like 24/7?
no, I don't. I tried meditation. It's a great thing, but
Yeah.
for me, there are several things that work. First of all, I have to have confidence in my team and my co-founders. That's essential. Second of all, I have to have my time with my family. That's
Yeah.
grounding me. That's giving me energy. That's giving me uh, um, confidence that I'm doing right things and so on. Another interesting thing for me was to repatriate to Armenia. I think one of the best decisions I've taken in life, because here I feel energized, I feel alive, I feel that we are doing the right thing and we are building a country almost. This is a very old history but young country. Uh, and then I have my own daily rituals like physical activity, schedule for sleep, um, good food, spending time with the family, taking at least one day off a week, like taking Sunday off with the family, and if possible, do exercise and sports.
Yeah.
That kind of things, you have to recover every day. If you don't recover, like when I was younger, I could just miss one night of sleep.
Oh God.
It's okay. Couple of nights of sleep. It was okay. Here, today, it's impossible. Like 2 hours less sleep, and then I feel it next day.
I feel you.
Yeah, yeah. So I have to respect this hygiene. It's
Yeah.
it's more of hygiene than crazy things like.
Yeah. It's important. You have to take care of yourself so you can take care of the company, the people, and everything
Yes.
else.
Yeah.
Two things I want to ask you about. One is you mentioned repatriating to Armenia. Where did you live before? In Russia?
Russia, then Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley?
Then I started to. We got the how do you call it, work permit, or in France, because we started the company there. So we started thinking,
SleepDoctor, you started in
yes,
France.
yeah. So we started thinking maybe we should move the family, the kids to Paris to study school and so on, because the company was there.
Yep.
To really consider this seriously. And then eventually, with my wife Emilia, we decided that we were gonna repatriate. It was an idea for a very long discussion in the family for a long time, but we were not quite there, quite yet ready yet, and so on.
Yeah.
And so we did this. I was born here in Armenia, in the north of the country, in Spitak, and then we, emigrated with my parents when I was not 9 years old, I think, and then the U.S., so France, Moscow, kind of, and
Yeah.
then back to Armenia.
Back to Armenia. Was there any culture shock involved when you returned back to Armenia, or did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still in cultural shock.
Yeah. What were some of the things that really stood out to you that was, oh my God, that's hard. It's super hard to live here. Or some things that were like, oh my God, it's great to live here. What were the pros and cons of living in Armenia?
Oh, there's lots of things. What I like to say to my friends is that the range of emotions that I have here is so wide. I am the angriest, I'm the happiest, I'm the most
It's
frustrated
something
and the
about
most
this
excited.
land. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. There are lots of things that I dislike about this place. Lots of things, like driving in the city is crazy. Back in the day, smoking everywhere. Now, thanks God, it's getting less. Um, I don't know, super dusty city,
Yeah.
littering in the streets, and in the beautiful nature, the most beautiful places on earth, and we are littering there. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
So there are things that drive me crazy, but there are things that I think are just impossible to get anywhere where I used to live before. This family culture, great food, everybody in the society is kind of feels related. You feel like you can be like anybody you talk to on the street can be your second cousin.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like it's closest relative. Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's like living in a family where you hate some things, but it's your family, you know,
Yeah.
and you want to when you know when you live in a megapolis like Moscow or San Francisco or Paris, you don't own that place,
That's true.
and here you own this city.
Yeah.
When you see something wrong, you complain there. Here you know that either you fix it or it's going to be like that because you're the owner. You know, you're the you know, it's your place. So you have this sense of purpose and ownership here, which I think is very important to have. And I think too many people in the Western society specifically lost that feeling
Yeah.
because it's so different, and the society is changing. You know, it's moving, and it's not easy to have this kind of feeling in these big places.
It's not. New York is crazy, for instance. Like I cannot even imagine having a sense of ownership in New York. It's huge.
Right.
You feel small. You don't feel like a part of something, right? You
Yeah.
feel like you're a stranger walking down the street, and like any minute you just want to leave, because at least that's how I feel.
Yeah, yeah. That was exactly my feeling. And I think this sense of belonging and purpose is something very deep inside that keeps you balanced. Even when you see the bad things happening, you still kind of know that it's okay. We will fix this, and we will, you know. And I'm generally super optimistic person. Otherwise, I wouldn't start startups, I guess.
That's true, yeah, because what, 90% of startups fail, 95% of
Yes.
startups
Yeah.
fail?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to talking about actually the failure story. I
Right.
know that you have worked on,
Which
well,
one?
exactly,
failures.
exactly. You've worked on so many products, right? And if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned the number 20, and out of 20 products that you've worked on, like 2 were actually successful. Is
Right.
that correct? Is that accurate?
I think so. I never really counted, but we had ideas all the time, and sometimes I try things, and it's not that we start things and then we raise funds and then it
Yeah.
becomes a real company and so on. No, just projects like that, yeah. And well, I'm quite entrepreneurial, so it's easy for me to start to think about stuff and to imagine a vision for something. So we would test many ideas. I didn't even count, like, and I know it's like dozens, but I don't know how
Yeah.
many attempts.
Why I'm asking is because a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting out, they work on this one idea, one product, and then they fail, let's say, at this product, and they think, oh, well, I'm just going to stop here because, it didn't fly, it didn't work. So I want to bring this sense of it's okay to fail. And then also, what does failure give you when you're working on a product and it doesn't work out?
Yeah,
Does it give you anything?
listen, it's never easy to fail. It's always painful, always. Even if you fail many times, it's still painful every time. And honestly, when you have some success, it's even harder to fail after that because you have the reputation, this, that,
Ego.
ego and stuff. I feel like ego is one of the things that kills a lot of startups, I would say. Yeah. And a lot of good partnerships, good co-founders split because of ego. Um, so I think failing is just part of the game. You have to accept it, because the other side, like on the other side, you have all of the excitement that comes with innovating and building new stuff and changing the world. It's just amazing feeling, and it really, it's an individual story, but I think it depends on how you take those excitements. Is it so important for you? If it's that important, then failure starts being okay and bearable, you know? So I don't think we should, they say fail fast and so on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm into that. I would say try to do everything to not fail.
Yep.
Be determined, fight for it, go beyond limits and so on, but do the right things.
Yeah.
Yeah. A startup building is not a science, it's an art, nothing is figured out. Nothing. It's not mathematics. You can't calculate things. It's just you figure out on the go. Like Reid Hoffman, I think, was saying that building a startup is like jumping from the skyscraper and
Trying to figure
building a
out
plane, building
the
a plane while falling.
yeah. I heard a parachute, but I think plane makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very stressful experience and so on.
Yeah.
You have to persevere. You have to be determined. Don't fail. I don't think failing is good, but you have to do the right things. And I think there is a lot of good books that and then good knowledge like Startup School of YC, this,
Yeah.
that. There is a lot of good knowledge just available that you can learn from and
Yeah.
not do the mistakes that we've been doing back in the day. So failing is not never fun,
Yeah.
but it's just part of the game. And if you fail, do it the right way
Yeah.
and learn and go to the next subject. I would love like I think one of the biggest things that we are losing when failing as startup is losing relationship, because you build this important relationship with your co-founder,
Yeah.
with your team, with your investors, people who believed in you, people who didn't go to work for Google but came to work for you, like 10 times less salary,
Yeah.
and they believed in you, in your vision, in your ability to lead and manage. So I think the best thing is if you fail at this startup, but you keep all of this relationship, you learn together and build another thing together, that's the best.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't feel like failure that much.
Yeah. So you you don't build to fail, you build to learn. We can say like if
Yes.
I mean
Well, you build to
obviously you build
succeed.
exactly, yeah.
You build to succeed and you fail and it's painful.
Yeah.
But if you keep your human relationship
Yeah.
and the learnings that you had along the path, then you build the next thing faster, easier, cheaper, and you have more chance to succeed.
What about your relationships? Like you mentioned this a few times throughout our conversation, relationships with co-founders. Has that ever suffered? Because I know that it can be tough, right? The going
Sure.
gets tough and you just have arguments and people have different views. Have you ever had challenges with your co-founders that seemed...
Of course, lots of them.
Yeah. How do you
Lots of them.
resolve that? How do you approach, what is your approach to resolving challenges with a co-founder?
I think for me, if I had to choose between my co-founder, any of them, and the company, I would choose my co-founder. If I had to lose the company but keep my brotherhood or friendship, I would totally keep my brother or friend. So that's a priority number one for me, and they know about it.
Yeah.
And uh, you know, I think that's an important basis that kind of is that it's a fundamental thing, and we know that.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps because we don't focus on this too much. We don't think about this as the main thing in our life. Okay.
And by this you mean the startup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever
I love that.
activity we're having. Yeah. Second, it's the ego thing. Ego can kill any good relationship,
Oh yeah.
and trying to bring it down and try to be empathetic and try to see the picture from the other side really helps. And for resolving, to be honest, the best thing, the wisest people wouldn't get into the problem to then be resolving it. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
just, I would say, the master level is if you don't get into trouble. So today it's quite stress free. My relationship with my co-founders, it's quite stress free. Sometimes still it's hard to manage, but it lasts a very short time, and then we kind of get back to normal. So it doesn't go too deep because we are empathetic and we know what we are doing, why we're doing this. I always try to understand what's the goals of my people for the next 10 years, like personally. Where do you want to be in the next 10 years? What are your aspirations? And then we try to built business around that.
So you're a people person.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. I never thought about it that way, but if you say so.
Yeah. I think so, because so far from our conversation, you mentioned a few times people are the most important thing.
Yeah,
People
you're
you
right.
work with,
Yeah.
relationships. And I think that's so true. And on the other hand, I think it's important to also where your focus is. It's not on making a shit ton of money, although that's also one of the metrics of success for a startup. But you look at it as a metric. You don't focus on it as this is our core priority, and then I'm going to, you know, go over or kill anyone that stands in the way just to get to that metric of success, which is profit.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I think I didn't. I figured this out a bit late. I thought about the money as an important thing much more in the beginning.
yeah,
You know,
as we all do.
I guess, but not everybody overcomes that.
Right.
I totally overcame that, and I it's just, but it's an individual story. There are people, and I have great friends whose motivator is money.
Yeah.
I understand that, but it's just not my thing.
I think building a startup in general, or and leading a team, being an entrepreneur, a business owner even, it changes people so much personally.
Yeah.
When you look back to when you just started your entrepreneurial journey and now, what were some of the things that really changed in you as a core? Maybe some characteristics, some traits that you were able to develop or refine and work on yourself. What has changed? Have you been able to notice that?
Honestly, it feels like I'm a completely different person. Although sometimes, like, I have bad memory, to be
Yeah.
honest, so I don't remember many things. Sometimes I would read an email that I sent like 15 years ago, and I would say, "Wow, such a um, how to say it, mature
Yeah.
thinking," you know, because I used to think about myself like 10, 15 years ago as a person who didn't know anything and didn't, you know.
Right.
So I guess some basis was is still the same, but uh, I am not a determinist, and I don't think people are just like they are, and they have to stay that way. I think people change. People can change if they want, and
People
so
should change.
I don't know about that, but I know that people can change, and I know that I am changing by learning, by reading, by talking to people, by having my own experiences and so on. So I have a feeling I'm a completely different person, and also, you know, these hardships that you go through, they teach you a lot, and
Yeah.
you kind of become the person who can take more stress. It's just becoming easier every time. When you see an unsolvable problem, your instinct becomes, we will solve it somehow. I don't know how. I don't know how exactly, okay? But whatever problem comes at me, I'm thinking, well, we've been through so much, and we will solve this as well. It will pass, and as everything else passed, you know.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. That's it.
Yeah.
So you have more confidence that anything that comes, if you're not doing some crazy shit, but it, you know, anything regular, like business wise, should be solvable.
Yeah. And what about some skills that you had to develop in your entrepreneurial journey? And maybe even looking back when you were starting out, you could go back and tell your younger self, okay, you need this skills. What would those skills be?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I know what, for example, uh, I tend to be very analytical. So I like analyzing things, trends, charts, this, that. My children still think that I'm a chart look, you know, I'm looking at charts. That's my work. That's because I love it very much.
Okay.
So I kind of find, you know, you have to rely on your strengths. So I'm quite analytical. So
Yeah.
I go into analytics and try to do that. And I think I became much better at that. But I don't think any specific skill set is so defining, really. If we're talking about startup building, like an entrepreneurial skills, uh, There's a few things you can learn from books, from videos online, on YouTube videos, and so on. There's a few things you can learn. First, you have to focus on the problem.
Yeah.
You really understand the problem and the customer. You have what we call customer development and so on, talk to customers. You have to go build minimal viable products.
Yeah.
You have to focus on business since the beginning, my opinion. We are in like you know, my favorite definition of startup is inventing new business models. It's not about building technology or product or designing stuff. It's about inventing new business models that were not possible before, but
Yeah.
become possible because of technology.
Yeah. So even if it's like a small, tiniest change, let's say in an idea that already exists, but the small, tiny change can create innovation. And using, let's say,
Yeah, it can be small change or large. It doesn't matter. But if you kind of create new ways of doing business, because usually because of technology, sometimes because of deep expertise or great processes that you can build and so on. But that's extremely hard. Technology is easier. It changes all the time. Younger people tend to have more focus on technology and easier to adopt that and so on. So we turn new technologies into businesses, and I think that's startup building. So if I could teach myself, I would try to teach those basics of building startup.
Right. So that's the advice you would give to yourself. What about if you were to give an advice to an aspiring entrepreneur who today wants to start a startup? What would you tell them to? What type of skill would you tell them to develop now, considering this AI revolution that we're going through?
I think regardless of what revolution is happening, launch early.
Yeah.
Launch the earliest, the most discomfortable, the uncomfortable launch is the best. So understand the problem and launch early.
Yeah.
You will learn from your customer more than anything you can learn from any other source of truth, books, videos, YC, whatever you think will teach you skills. It doesn't matter. Learning from the market, from the real customer, that's the best. So launch early, and then you will know more than anybody else on the market, just because you have launched and you see how they use the product.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. I think
Thank
this
you.
was a super cool discussion, and I think people who are trying to become entrepreneurs will learn a lot. Also, it's important to know that failure and challenges, it's a part of the journey. We see glamorous entrepreneurs out there who are amazing and successful, and we think, well, I can never be that. But they go through this journey themselves. They transform, they build businesses, they fail, and then at some point they succeed. And we need to know that story to be able to have this belief that it's okay if I fail once, twice, 3 times.
No, it's never easy. If we have 1 minute,
Yeah, of course.
it's never easy. When we were at YC, Airbnb guys came and told their story, and it's off the record, so they were telling a lot of the truth that is not visible from media. Such a complicated pathway, such a crazy, hard, and stressful experience they had, that the next 3 days I had nightmares that I'm the co-founder of Airbnb.
You were not dreaming of it. You had
I had
nightmares.
nightmares.
Oh God.
I thought it's like the worst thing to do. People were getting killed inside the apartments that we had in our Airbnb and so on. I had all of the, all of the possible nightmares, and this kind of taught me that the hardships we are going through, we're always felt like there's so many smart people, successful, everybody's doing the right thing, and we're the only idiots in the room. But when you see the greatest guys in the business who've been so much stuff, you get inspired. You understand you're not the only idiot in the room. Everybody is idiot in the room.
Yep.
It's never like super easy and slick pathway. So it is seamless, and so on, and one night success, overnight success. So I think it's just a part of the way. So we have to be honest about it, and everybody has to understand it. It's going to be hard, but it's also very rewarding.
Yeah. And I think when you say like you looked up at two, let's say Airbnb founders and you thought, well, they're all amazing, successful, and we're the idiots. I felt the same way when I was looking at you and talking to you. Let's say the first time I thought, well, I'm an idiot. How am I going to launch a startup? But then when you tell your story and that you also feel this, you also go through the same feelings and processes like I did when I'm starting something new and I might be failing, I feel less of an idiot. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Thank you
And
for
good luck with
making me
your
less of
podcast.
an idiot. Thank you.